This pack comes with two cars, an E36 and an E46, and they're both meant to be street-style drift builds. After driving them back-to-back on Gunsai, what stood out wasn't power or grip, it was how differently each one reacts once you start brushing things, and that difference ends up suiting very different drivers. What I was really paying attention to, though, was whether they behave in a way that actually makes sense once you start leaning on them. For this run, I'm not chasing lap times and I'm not touching the setup. I'm not really thinking about the angle either. I just want to see what happens when I'm a little late on throttle or slightly off on a transition, because that's usually where a car shows its personality. If a mod is trying to be realistic, that's also where it either falls apart or starts to make sense. I'll start with the E36, then jump straight into the E46 on the full course. Straight away, the E36 rotates pretty easily. On initiation, even if I'm not perfectly timed, the car still comes around without feeling like it's fighting me. The weight transfer feels quite progressive too. Like the rear doesn't just step out instantly, it loads up and then gives way. There's less pressure to get everything exactly right from the start. Through transitions, I've got more room to fix things. If I over-rotate slightly or lift mid-corner, I usually bring it back and keep the run connected without losing the whole line. The rear doesn't snap back aggressively either. It kinda settles before you commit to the next direction, which makes it feel believable on a road like this. The extra margin also makes it easier to stay relaxed at Gunsai, especially through the tighter sections. What makes this feel realistic isn't that it's hard, it's that the car reacts in stages. You can feel when the rear is loading up, and you can feel when you've asked too much instead of everything happening at once. If I'm greedy on throttle, the car widens out gradually instead of instantly spinning, and that gives me time to actually respond. When I make small mistakes in the E36, they usually cost angle more than momentum. I can still link the next corner even if it wasn't clean. That makes it forgiving, especially if you're still working on consistency. But it also means you can carry bad habits that don't really get corrected. Toasty! Now jumping straight into the E46 on the same course makes the contrast pretty obvious. The E46 wants a clearer decision from you. If I have commit on initiation, the car doesn't snap. It just doesn't rotate enough, and that makes the next corner harder than it needs to be. It feels like the front end demands more commitment before the rear follows. You notice that pretty quickly, that hesitation costs more here. Through transitions, timing matters a lot more. If I'm late getting back on throttle and try to fix it with some steering instead, the car falls out of rhythm. The rear also comes back in line faster than the E36 if I lift abruptly, which means you can't be lazy with corrections. What truly stands out about the E46 is how weight shifts under braking and initial turn-in. If I trail brake a little too long, the rear lightens noticeably, and that changes how the car rotates. It doesn't feel exaggerated, it just reacts to input in a way that forces you to focus on timing. When I apply throttle too aggressively mid-transition, the rear doesn't just hold angle unrealistically. It either tightens the line or pushes wide depending on how the car is loaded. That kind of behavior makes it feel realistic, because it reacts differently depending on what the chassis is doing. What really stands out with the E46 is how small mistakes are stacking. One late input turns into another, and suddenly I'm chasing the car instead of guiding it. It kind of forces you to clean up your timing if you want the run to stay smooth. In conclusion, neither of these feel exaggerated or gamey. They just respond to mistakes in different ways. The E36 gives you space to recover and keep linking corners, while the E46 makes timing errors show up by breaking the rhythm of the run. From a realism standpoint, the E36 feels more forgiving on how it transfers weight, while the E46 feels more sensitive to when and how you load the chassis. This is why drift mods are hard to judge in the first few minutes. Almost anything feels fine when you're not really pushing the car yet. It's only once you lean on it a bit or start missing inputs by small amounts that you find out what the car actually encourages you to do. One lets you stay relaxed and focused on linking, while the other makes you slow down and be more deliberate. If you're choosing between these, I wouldn't worry too much about numbers or visuals. I'd think about how you normally drive and whether you tend to rush things or take your time. That usually makes the choice pretty obvious. If you want to see more mod reviews, let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you on the next run. Peace!